So picture this. You log into your Shopify admin, right? You've got your coffee in hand, you're ready to check on your store, and your stomach just immediately drops.
Oh, yeah. The ultimate panic moment.
Right. You're staring at the dashboard, and your sessions have suddenly jumped by like 40% this month, but your orders are just completely flat.
Or you're looking at this massive flood of abandoned carts, and every single one is from an account with the name that looks like someone just, mashed their forehead on a keyboard.
Yes, exactly. And your conversion rate is absolutely tanking. And you're just sitting there staring at the screen, and you don't know if your ad campaigns just drove off a cliff or if real human customers just aren't showing up anymore.
It's terrifying because suddenly the foundational numbers you rely on to run your business just feel entirely untrustworthy.
And that's exactly what we're jumping into today on this deep dive. We've pulled together this really comprehensive stack of sources covering bot traffic in Shopify Analytics.
Right, because we really need to unpack this.
Yeah, the mission for us today is to figure out why your session counts look so broken, how to actually diagnose if it's a bot problem or, something else entirely. And most importantly, how to uncover your real conversion rate without accidentally breaking your own store in the process.
Which happens a lot because, the reason this strikes so much fear into store owners is that your conversion rate is really just a fraction. It's just your total orders divided by your total sessions.
Simple math, yeah.
Right. So when your denominator, the sessions, is artificially inflated by junk traffic, well, every single weekly business decision you make based on that metric is basically a guess wearing a percentage sign.
A guess wearing a percentage sign. I like that.
You just can't optimize your store if the ruler you're using to measure success keeps stretching,
Okay, let's pull this apart because my immediate instinct in that scenario is to start like building a fortress. I want to rip the store apart, install a bunch of blockers, and just ban half the internet from ever seeing my site.
Yeah, the nuclear option.
Right. But the sources make it super clear we need to figure out if bots are actually the disease we're suffering from first. Because there are 4 distinct issues that cause this exact same analytical chaos.
And only one of them is genuine bot inflation.
Exactly.
So what's the first one?
Well, the first scenario is that classic bot inflation we just mentioned.
Yeah.
So your sessions jump, but your orders stay totally flat. That is a denominator problem.
Okay, got it.
But the second scenario looks similar, but it's completely different. It's an attribution gap.
An attribution gap.
Yeah, so this happens when 2 different tools, let's say Shopify and Google Analytics, completely disagree on who gets credit for an order. In that case, you don't even look at sessions at all. You need to compare the raw order counts and see how each tool is like assigning credit for the sale.
Okay, that makes sense. And the third scenario is kind of sneaky. Right, you see your numbers wildly change, but then you realize it happened right after you updated your store's theme.
Or maybe you just installed one of those new cookie consent banners to be privacy compliant.
That almost always points to a broken or duplicated tracking setup. When you add a new app or a banner, sometimes it injects a new tracking code, but it just leaves the old one behind.
Oh, so it's counting everything twice.
Exactly. Suddenly you have a tag firing twice on every single page view, which artificially doubles your sessions. So the fix there has nothing to do with blocking bots. You just need to audit your code.
Just confirm your tags only fire once. Which brings up the fourth scenario, which is the one nobody actually wants to admit might be happening.
Yeah, the tough one.
Your sessions are steady, your tracking hasn't changed, but your conversion rate is just down.
A genuine conversion drop. It is a bitter pill to swallow because nothing is technically broken, right? There's no shadowy bot network attacking you.
It's just you.
Right. Your sales funnel or your product pricing or maybe your user experience just isn't converting the traffic the way it used to.
I feel like, we're trying to figure out if the car's engine is failing or if the fuel gauge is just broken.
Oh, that's a perfect way to frame it.
Right. Because if it's a genuine conversion drop, the engine actually needs work. But if it's bot inflation, the engine is totally fine. The fuel gauge is just feeding us terrible data.
Exactly. But, okay, the sources highlight a very specific 5th scenario that we really have to touch on, because misdiagnosing this one is the single most common mistake merchants make when they start panicking about bots.
Ah, right, the oddball scenario. This is when an external tool, like Google Analytics 4, shows vastly more sessions than Shopify.
Way more.
The sources mention this one merchant who documented, I think it was 713 sessions in GA4, but only 13 sessions in Shopify for the exact same time window.
And the kicker was their actual purchases were recording correctly in both places.
That is wild.
What's fascinating about that 713 to 13 gap is that merchants often panic. They assume GA4 is under a massive bot attack, but it's actually an undercounting problem on Shopify's end.
Wait, really?
Yeah, because the final orders are still recording correctly, so you have to use your orders as your anchor point in reality. Treating this rare reverse gap as a bot attack is just going to send you down a rabbit hole.
Trying to fix a session count in GA4.
Right, when your real focus should be on why Shopify isn't registering the visits at all.
Okay, but wait. If the orders are real, why would Shopify completely miss hundreds of sessions that Google is seeing?
Well, often it comes down to aggressive consumer privacy settings. A shopper might be using strict browser tracking protections that block Shopify's internal analytics scripts from firing.
I see.
But maybe they clicked through a Google shopping ad, which allowed Google-specific tags to kind of bypass the blocker for that session.
Okay, but that 713 to 13 gap is massive. It proves that GA4 and Shopify can severely disagree. So before I can ever point a finger and say, that's a bot, I really need to understand why these two platforms have completely different baselines to begin with.
Right. They're looking at the exact same shoppers, but they are speaking two entirely different languages. They fundamentally do not agree on what constitutes a session or when a session ends.
Or whose visits are even worth counting in the first place, right?
Exactly.
I found this part of the sources just mind-blowing, starting with something called the midnight rule.
Oh, the midnight rule.
Yeah, let's say I'm a shopper in California, and it's 4.3 VM. I'm browsing a store for 40 minutes. To GA4, I'm one continuous session. But Shopify operates on a hard cutoff at Midnight Coordinated Universal Time, or UTC.
Which changes everything.
Right, because 4.3 p.m. in California happens to be exactly midnight UTC. So Shopify slices my browsing right down the middle and counts me as two separate sessions.
It's wild. And multiply that by every shopper in a global catalog browsing across that UTC midnight line, and the counts drift apart immediately.
Just a structural discrepancy right out of the gate.
Exactly. And then you add session expiry to the mix. So Shopify automatically ends a session after 30 minutes of no activity. But Google Analytics 4 ends a session after 30 minutes of user inactivity.
Okay, those sound identical. What is the actual difference there?
They operate really differently under the hood. For GA4, if a video is playing on the page or an event is firing in the background, that might keep the session alive even if the user physically walked away from their keyboard.
Oh, gotcha.
But Shopify is strictly looking at whether you requested a new page or took a hard action. Plus, you have to look at how they handle returning users, specifically on Apple devices.
Right, the Safari privacy stuff.
Yeah, Safari caps JavaScript set persistent cookies at 7 days to protect user privacy.
So if a shopper visits my store on an iPhone, leaves, and then comes back 8 days later, GA4 looks at them and says, brand new visitor, never seen them before.
Precisely. But Shopify, because it's using its own server-side recording mechanisms tied to customer accounts, well, it might still recognize that person as a returning customer.
Okay, but the part that really stopped me in my tracks was the silent deletion. GA4 is essentially like editing history before I even open my laptop.
Yes. Google Analytics 4 quietly removes traffic that it recognizes as bots. It uses Google's own massive internal research and something called the IAB's International Spiders and Bots list.
And how do they actually know a visitor matches that list? What are they looking for?
They look at the user agent string, which is basically the ID badge a browser shows when it requests a web page, and they look at IP behavior.
Okay.
If the ID badge says, I am a Google search crawler, or the behavior perfectly matches known automated server farms, GA4 just filters them out before they ever reach your reports.
Wow.
And there is no toggle switch to opt out of this. Google doesn't even provide a report showing the volume of traffic they removed.
So GA4 is just hiding the messy reality of the internet from me, and Shopify is just showing me everything, warts and all.
Pretty much.
Add in the fact that consumer ad blockers, like Easy Privacy, cut off GA4 entirely at the domain level, while Shopify's server-side tracking still records the visit. And you realize these two tools are never, ever going to match.
No, they won't.
So if that's the case, how do I even know what a normal discrepancy between Shopify and GA4 looks like?
Well, this is where we need to bust a very persistent industry myth.
Let's do it.
In March 2026, a well-known marketing attribution vendor published a blog post claiming a 5 to 15% gap between Shopify and GA4 is the normal rule of thumb.
Okay.
That percentage is entirely fabricated just for the sake of having a neat, comforting rule. Shopify has absolutely no official stance on what a normal gap should be.
So if that 15% rule is garbage, what should a store owner actually do to benchmark their data?
You have to establish your own structural baseline. You track the gap between your specific tools over a 30-day period when you aren't making any major changes to your site or your ads.
Just a quiet month.
Exactly. That gap is your unique baseline, born from your specific audience's mix of ad blockers, cookie consent rates, and those late-night shoppers crossing that UTC midnight line. Only a sudden, sharp widening of that specific gap is actually cause for investigation.
Okay, so let's say I've checked my baseline, and I definitely have a massive spike in junk traffic hitting Shopify. If GA4 is silently deleting data behind the scenes, and Shopify is catching everything and throwing it into my denominator, how do I actually clean up my Shopify reports?
The first step is recognizing that what looks like a malicious bot attack in the Shopify admin often has a perfectly innocent operational explanation.
Like, well, what? Because if I see a huge burst of $0 orders, my brain instantly goes to fraud or, hackers.
Sure. Or you accidentally left a draft product with a $0 price tag exposed on your live site, and a bargain hunting community found it and shared the link everywhere.
Oops, yeah.
Right. Or perhaps you see a massive spike in traffic originating from data centers like Amazon Web Services. You assume it's a malicious botnet trying to scrape your pricing. But it could just be a niche, legitimate search engine crawler indexing your site for a new directory.
The sources also mentioned seeing weird search terms in your analytics that look like long, random machine-generated ID numbers.
And that is often just a partner app you installed, like a specialized site search tool, running an automated load test on your store to make sure their app doesn't crash during a high-traffic event.
Ah, okay. So instead of assuming the worst, we can use Shopify's native solution to parse this out. Because on October 7th, 2025, Shopify quietly rolled out a new analytics dimension called Human or Bot Session.
Yes, and the best part is that it's completely free, regardless of what Shopify plan you are paying for.
That's awesome.
It is incredibly useful, but it comes with significant limitations that merchants really need to understand. First, it is entirely manual. You have to actively go into your reporting configuration panel and add this dimension to every single report you want to view. It's not just an on-off switch for the whole dashboard.
Right, and it is absolutely not retroactive. Any data your store recorded before October 7, 2025 is permanently dirty. Shopify will never go back and reclassify it.
Never.
Also, if you are a larger merchant running a headless or hydrogen custom storefront, you don't get this filter at all.
Which is rough. But most crucially, this dimension only labels the traffic. It does not block anyone from accessing your site.
Wait, so this filter isn't a bouncer at the club door keeping the bad actors out?
Not at all.
It's just a guy with a clipboard walking around inside the club, quietly putting name tags on the bots, and handing me a list at the end of the night saying, hey, half these guys didn't buy anything.
That is exactly what it is. He's not throwing anyone out. He just lets the manager know who is buying drinks and who is just taking up space on the dance floor.
That's hilarious.
But having that clipboard fundamentally changes how you view your conversion rate math. Let's walk through the example Shopify actually published in their documentation to see why this matters.
Okay, let's take this slow so I can visualize the math.
Imagine you open your report and it shows you had 1,000 total sessions today, resulting in 35 orders.
Okay.
If you divide 35 by 1,000, you get a blended conversion rate of 3.5%. Not terrible, but maybe lower than you want.
Right, 3.5%.
Now, you ask the guy with the clipboard, you apply the new dimension to split the data. The report now shows you that out of those 1,000 sessions, only 750 of them were classified as human. And those 750 humans were responsible for 30 of your orders.
Okay, so if I divide those 30 human orders by the 750 human sessions, suddenly my real human conversion rate is 4.0%.
Exactly.
That's a massive jump in performance.
It completely changes how you evaluate your store's health.
But hold on, the math there. If 30 orders came from humans, and I had 35 total orders for the day, that means bots bought 5 things. Why would a bot buy a pair of socks?
It's a great question. The remaining 250 bot sessions generated 5 orders, giving them a 2.0% conversion rate. This proves a vital point about how the internet works today.
Okay.
Classifying something as a bot simply means evaluating the technical behavior of the traffic, like how fast it clicks, whether it executes JavaScript, what IP it uses. It is not a measurement of buying intent.
Really?
Yeah. Some automated traffic, like authorized shopping agents, price-matching scrapers acting on behalf of a buyer, or even automated subscription renewals can and will result in actual transactions.
That is wild. But okay, knowing that Shopify's filter only labels traffic and doesn't actually block it, my natural instinct as a store owner is still to build a wall. I want the bouncer at the door, not the guy with the clipboard.
Sure.
But the sources are incredibly clear that the most common advice you find on Reddit or web forums for building that wall actually backfires terribly on Shopify.
It creates massive self-inflicted wounds. The first piece of terrible advice is to put your own custom Cloudflare proxy or a web application firewall in front of your Shopify store.
Cloudflare is famous for stopping bots. Why wouldn't I want that?
Because Shopify already runs an enterprise version of Cloudflare automatically on all of its hosted stores. To keep your checkout secure, Shopify needs to constantly issue and renew SSL certificates. And to do that, it sends an automated ping, an HTTP challenge, to verify it still controls the domain.
Okay.
If you put your own third-party firewall in front of Shopify, your firewall blocks that automated ping.
Oh, so my firewall is essentially treating Shopify's security system like a hostile bot.
Yes. You break your own SSL renewals, you ruin Shopify's automatic failover systems if a server goes down, and you alter the incoming request attributes, which basically blinds Shopify's native bot detection. You are paying money to weaken a security system that is already built in.
That's not good. Okay, what if I go simpler? What about blocking specific IP addresses or entire countries? If I only ship to the US and Canada, and I see a massive spike in junk traffic coming from a server farm in Eastern Europe, why shouldn't I just nuke that whole country from accessing my site?
Because geography is a symptom of bot traffic, it is not the cause. If you block an entire country, you are permanently blocking real customers who happen to be traveling, people using VPNs for privacy, or diaspora communities who want to buy your products as gifts for family.
And I imagine the bots don't really care.
They don't. The malicious actors will just rent server space in the US tomorrow and route their traffic through local IPs. Geography spoofing is incredibly cheap, and trying to hunt individual IP addresses is completely useless.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, one merchant in the sources tried this and reported an attack that used over 18,000 rotating IP addresses. It's a game of whack-a-mole you literally cannot win.
Fine, no firewalls, no country bans. What about rolling up my sleeves and deleting fake accounts manually every day?
Here.
Or adding one of those annoying picture tests? Or maybe messing with the robots.txt file to tell crawlers to go away?
Well, let's break those down. Adding an HCAPTCHA, where you have to click all the pictures of crosswalks and buses, barely slows them down. Malicious actors use AI vision models or pay pennies to human labor farms to solve those puzzles all day long.
Oh, wow.
One merchant reported seeing 20 to 50 fake abandoned carts every single day, even with strict HCAPTCHAs turned on. Manual deletion is just a treadmill that exhausts you.
And the robots.txt file. I know that's basically a text file that sits on your site and gives instructions to web crawlers.
Think of robots.txt as a polite do not enter sign hanging on an unlocked door. Good bots, like Google's search indexers and tools that check your site for accessibility compliance, will read the sign and respect it.
And you want them on your site.
Exactly. But malicious bots scraping your content, they will just walk right past the sign and ignore the file entirely.
Okay, so if I can't build a wall myself, what about paying someone else to do it? I search the Shopify App Store and I see bot management apps like Blockify or Negate with great reviews. Don't those fix the reporting problem?
You have to understand the mechanics of what those apps actually do. They inject code to act on live traffic moving forward. They attempt to challenge, block, or filter events as they're happening in real time. But absolutely no app on the market has the architectural permission to reach backward into Shopify's database and rewrite or clean up the historical sessions that Shopify has already recorded.
So if my goal is simply to have a clean historical report to look at from last month, paying a monthly fee for an app won't help me at all.
Correct. The native human or bot session dimension already does that for free. You only need a paid app if you are trying to stop live operational abuse, like bots hoarding limited edition inventory, not if you are just trying to fix a messy analytics report.
Which brings us to the ultimate question. What does this all mean for you, the listener, right now? If the historical data before October 2025 is permanently stained and manually building walls is a trap, how do you confidently run your business during a window of dirty traffic?
You have to shift your entire focus to your true north metrics. You temporarily ignore any metric that has sessions in the denominator.
Just ignore it completely.
Ignore your conversion rate, ignore cost per session, ignore bounce rate.
And replace them with what?
You focus heavily on bottom-line metrics that bots cannot easily fake. You build your daily reports around raw order volume, total revenue, average order value, and refund rates. If your sessions spike by 40%, but your revenue and average order value remain perfectly steady, your business is healthy. The reporting is just noisy.
But traffic isn't just a reporting nuisance forever. At some point, if left unchecked, bad traffic stops being about dirty data and starts directly hitting your wallet.
Yes, and the most dangerous operational escalation is card testing. This is a mechanism where automated scripts use massive lists of stolen credit card details and run thousands of $1 or $2 transactions through your checkout just to see which cards get approved.
And if they get approved, the thieves take those good cards and go buy TVs somewhere else.
Yeah.
But why does that hurt the Shopify merchant?
Because every single chargeback you get from the real cardholder counts against your merchant account's risk profile, even if you win the dispute.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, a massive surge in declined transactions or chargebacks can cause your payment processor to flag your account. They might hold your payouts, or worse, their algorithms might get so defensive that they start declining your legitimate human customers.
That's a nightmare. The other real cost we need to highlight is paid media, because bot sessions aren't just sitting quietly in your Shopify dashboard. They are interacting with your site and triggering client-side marketing pixels.
And this is incredibly damaging. A pixel is just a tiny piece of tracking code provided by Facebook or TikTok that sits on your site, watches what visitors do, and reports back to the ad algorithm.
Right.
If bots are flooding your site and triggering add-to-cart events, you are feeding terrible data back to those platforms. You are essentially paying Facebook to go find more people who act exactly like those bots.
If you are listening to this right now and you've noticed a suspicious spike in your traffic over the last few weeks that you think came from your Google ads, there is a critical time frame you need to be aware of.
This is huge. Google states explicitly in their terms of service that you will not get refunds for invalid automated click traffic unless you request an official investigation within a strict 60-day window.
60 days.
If you suspect your paid clicks are bots, the clock is already ticking. You must file that request immediately, even before you finish your own internal diagnosis. Do not wait until the end of the quarter.
That is super important to know. And along those same lines of protecting yourself, if you are in the middle of a dirty traffic window right now, you need to explicitly annotate your analytics reports today. Leave a digital sticky note in your dashboard explaining that a bot spike occurred this week.
Definitely.
So when you look back at year-over-year comparisons next year, you aren't using polluted data as a baseline and tearing your hair out wondering why your performance looks so different.
You are leaving breadcrumbs for your future self. It is the cheapest and most effective way to maintain sanity in analytics.
So to bring this all together, inflated sessions are a triage problem. They're not a mystery. When you see that 40% spike, don't panic. Don't immediately drop a bunch of money on a firewall app, and do not try to block half the globe.
Just take a breath.
Yeah. Use the free native Shopify dimension to split your denominator. Focus on bottom-line metrics like revenue and orders that can't be faked, and just accept the reality that for anything before October 7, 2025, the history is permanently written and cannot be changed.
And if we zoom out and look forward, there is a much larger philosophical shift happening across the internet. The sources note that automated traffic already makes up over 51% of all web traffic globally.
Wow, more than half.
But the majority of the internet is no longer human. We are entering an era where AI agents and highly sophisticated shopping bots are becoming integrated into how regular, everyday consumers hunt for the best prices or manage their monthly subscriptions.
It's wild to think about.
The line between human and bot behavior is going to completely blur. We are moving toward a future where e-commerce platforms might not be trying to filter bots out of the analytics. They might be trying to figure out how to market and sell directly to them.
So that panic moment when you log in and see your conversion rate tanking. The real question you might need to ask yourself in a few years isn't how to block the bots. It's what happens to your conversion rate when your absolute best, highest spending, most reliable customer isn't a human at all.
That's the real question.
Something to think about. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.